Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. My name is Virtual Nunchucks. Hope you guys are having a great day, and if you're wondering what we're doing, we're not actually going to play anything. You're just going to see some background while I talk. We're talking about the DualSense Edge controller, and look, I know there's a ton of unboxing videos and you know, Call of Duty videos, how well it does with first-person shooters, etc. But this review is specifically for someone like me with a disability, or someone who just wants to know about the controller in general. If you want to see a good unboxing video, there's tons of them. All right, you know, just look one up. All right, but we're going to talk about the DualSense Edge. Yes, I finally sprung, and if you've been around for a long time, you know I've been looking for a controller that has features that I need as a disabled person. And what works for me and things like that. Now, I will say, before we get into the review, that there is a adaptable or a controller that's been made by Sony, finally, thank you, that is specifically designed to be an adaptable controller for people with disabilities. And I think that is a fantastic controller. However, for me, I'm not in the position to have to need something like that, so the DualSense Edge does work for me. So let's talk about the different things that you can do with the DualSense Edge. By the way, the adaptive controller that they have created, I think is around $99, $100, somewhere around there, if I'm not mistaken, last time I looked. Now, let's talk about the DualSense Edge. The DualSense Edge, if you've seen it, you know, it's been around for a while now, but I finally sprung for one. I've done a lot of research on which one did I want to get. Did I want to get the adaptive one that they have now for the PlayStation? Do I want to get a Scuff? Do I want to get a Battle Beaver? Because, you know, I have, you know, problems with my hands. I have problems with my reflexes. I'm hard on thumbsticks. All of those things, right? And I finally just decided I'm going to spring for the DualSense Edge. Yes, it's expensive. It's $200. That's your buy-in, right? But let's talk about why I decided to do it, okay? Outside of the normal features that you know, with the paddles and things like that, yes, it has paddles, and yes, I do use them. The DualSense Edge has become my daily driver. I have been using it for 7 months. I personally use the actual paddles, not the ones with the half domes. They are magnetic, they do stick, and they do function very, very well, and they sit flush. The ones that I like most is the paddles, because they sit flush, and I don't really have to worry about moving my fingers too much to push them, which helps me. But let's talk about why I wanted to get this controller. First of all, the amount of settings that you can have for this controller is insane, okay? It is insane. You can customize and remap every single button on this controller, from the L3, R3 button to the touchpad to the directional pads. You can make one of your directional pads the L3 button, the R3 button, X button, anything you want, okay? You can do the same thing for every button on this controller, whether it be the triggers or the bumpers. It doesn't matter. You can make this work. And the reason I say that was a really big feature for me was because I know people, I am one of those people that can hold a DualSense controller and use a regular DualSense controller just fine. But I know people who play one-handed because their other hand doesn't work due to injury or whatever. And so I was thinking about my friend who plays one-handed. When I saw that, I was like, oh, cool. You know, a person can just make the controller their own, and if you play one-handed and you are really good with that one hand, you could make this work for you really, really well, just from the remapping standpoint. If you're like me and you have a really bad time or a really hard time with stick drift because you're really hard on your controllers due to poor motor control or just muscular problems with your fingers, I am notoriously bad for ruining a controller. The first thing that goes bad is the stick. because the things that happen um, with my hands. And so I was like, okay, so if I invest in a Scuff, or I invest in a Battle Beaver, or I invest in one of these really expensive controllers, what's it going to do to me when I have to replace the stick? Because I can't just go out and buy another $200 controller or something like that. That's insane. I don't want to do that. That would just be stupid. Throwing away money. I'd get to play with it for, you know, 6 months, 9 months, a year maybe, and then have to go buy a new one. And I was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea, right? The neat thing about this controller is you can switch out the stick modules. All you have to do is pop the casing off, and then the stick modules have a little lever, and you just pull that, and it pops the individual stick modules out, and you can just replace those. I think the last time I saw the replaceable modules, they were $20 a pop, which that's a little steep for a stick module, but at the same time, I would rather be able to just pay $20, replace the module, versus paying $200 to have to replace the stick for something, to replace the whole controller for something as simple as thumbstick problems, right? So that was a really big selling point for me. It was almost the exclusive selling point. I was like, yeah, the paddles would be nice, but being able to pop out your sticks and just simply replace your sticks, that's incredible, because it's not cost prohibitive to just buy a new stick module, plug it in, and go. But then I found out, not only do you have the stick modules, but you have, like I said, the mappable controller is completely mappable to whatever you want it to be, and it works. So that I was like, that's really cool. But then I dug even deeper, and the fact that you can determine how much of a response curve your triggers have, right? Because if you have trouble with fine motor skills or fingers movements or anything like that, you can adapt the triggers to trigger pull to you, not only because we have the trigger stops that are back there, but you also can do it in the software itself. It allows you to it allows the controller to realize how far you want to pull the trigger back, or the bumpers, before it responds, which is completely cool. Also, the dead zone curves are there for each individual stick. You get to program the dead zone, right? So if you're like me and you have a little bit of trouble with your thumbsticks, sometimes you pull too hard because you want to respond really quickly, or sometimes it doesn't respond no matter how much you do to it, you know, or you're trying to do your fine movements and you're having trouble. You can work with the dead zones to find the stick dead zone that works best for you as a player. And there are some presets that you can do, that you can mess around with as well. So not only can you do it manually, but you can also look at the presets and see if those work. And when I saw that, I was just like amazed at the customization available to me, because if you do have a moment or two where the stick's not responding, maybe you do have a little bit of stick drift and you don't have $20 in your pocket, right? You can adjust the stick drift and dead zones to maybe compensate for that until then. But the biggest thing was the fact that I maybe could have a little bit more control over my movements with my fingers, which is completely amazing and worth the price of admission, I think, based on all of that. Also, I'm just going to be honest. Like, there are some smaller features to the controller that I just absolutely love. First of all, it is the PlayStation 5 aesthetic, black and white, but it just looks really, really cool. And it does have that rubberized grip, textured grip towards the back of the controller that does help, at least for me, it does help my hands not move around so much, and I don't feel like I'm going to snap it in half, because it's a very solid controller. It doesn't feel cheap It doesn't feel light. So when I'm in a heavy gaming session, just because of my cerebral palsy, I'm hard on controllers anyway. Sometimes you can hear it when I'm playing, it creaks because of the way my hands work. I don't hear that a lot with this particular controller. So I don't panic about, oh, am I squeezing too hard? Am I, doing that kind of thing? I don't hear the moving of the plastic as much, and I don't think I'm doing anything to the controller nearly as much as I would a normal DualSense controller. The other thing that I thought was really, really nice was, oh gosh, it left me. Oh yeah, the obviously the taking off of the thumbstick caps, right? You can snap those off. They have the half dome, they have the taller one, short one, whatever. And I know some of y'all are sitting there going, well, the Xbox 360 Pro controller does that. Yes, it does. But if you don't have an Xbox 360 and you don't have a Pro controller, this is the next best thing, right? And we're talking about adaptability for people with disabilities in this review. I really think that actually does allow for some control. I personally am okay with the concave ones that are default, right? Partly because if I do want to do a little bit of fine movement with my hands, I can catch the lip of that of the stick and move it a little bit with my finger, versus if it was just smooth like the old time DualSense, or not DualSense controller, but the DualShock controller, right, back in the day when they had those concave ones. Sometimes that was a little too difficult for the fine movements for me, just because of my fine motor skill problems, right? So it's a nice little touch. I also like the fact that you have the trigger stops, right? Because if you have a reflex problem like I do, you have the ability to have a longer pull or a normal pull, a short pull, and then a really short pull with the trigger stops. And it's just a little lever you just pull down at the back. And that helps with reflex decisions for me if I'm playing X Defiant or something like that. But the biggest thing for me that I was just like, yes, absolutely, gotta have this, was the profiles and the being able to assign different profiles for different games, right? I have one for the game you're seeing on the screen. I called it Cops, because I'm old and I've seen the show about 1 billion times when I was growing up, so I called it Cops. But you can customize the button layout for each individual game. You can program up to, let's see, 1, 2. I think you can have 3. Yes, you can have 3 by default. You can have 3 programmable profiles. That's the word I'm looking for. Assigned to the buttons, the face buttons, square, triangle, and circle, right? The default one is not able to be removed, but the default one actually turns off your paddles. So you can hit the function button, hit default. If you don't want to worry about accidentally hitting the paddles, if the paddles aren't working for you, you can hit default and it works, right? If you want to take out the paddles and still use it for another game that you're playing, that's fine. And the reason I think the profiles are exciting and helpful is because maybe for your type of issue with a controller, you can program your profile to suit the game that you're playing, right? For Call of Duty or first-person shooters, for example, you might put jump and slide on the trigger. You might have to rearrange, remap the buttons to whatever works for you, right? For that specific game. For another game like a basketball game or even a platformer, you might have another complete setup that works better for you because of the way the control scheme works. And you have that option with those profiles, and it's absolutely amazing. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have about 5 profiles set up for each individual game that I play. 3 are assigned, 2 are sitting there in case I decide I want to play those games. I can just reprogram or just simply reassign the buttons to the unassigned profiles, and I'm good to go. All I have to do is just click a couple buttons, boom, go to the game I want to play, and I'm good. That is so awesome to be able to do that, right? So I know I've kind of gone 90 miles an hour in this review, but I just, it's a big deal, and I am not knocking what they have done. Sony finally paid attention and finally got an adaptive controller for people to be able to play games and not worry about, can I use this controller or anything like that. I'm so glad that they finally did that. Thank you. Finally caught up to Microsoft. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. But, the for me, the money, the DualSense Edge, the way that they have the detail and the thought process of how you can remap just about every single button is incredible. So that's why I went ahead and spent the $200 on the controller. I've been playing with it, like I said earlier, for about 7 months. I didn't want to just buy it and immediately review it and say, yeah, come get this controller, because I wanted to spend some time with it to make sure that it was something that was useful for me as a disabled person. If it was something that I think someone else might use and benefit from, being able to use it and play games maybe that you haven't been able to play in a very long time, or play games that you normally wouldn't be able to play because you have the ability to assign so many different buttons to so many different things and make it your own. And so I wanted to take the time to actually play with it, use it, and then come up with some thoughtful examples of what I'm talking about. And so I highly recommend it if you are in the market for a controller and you can afford it. Like I said, it is very expensive, but if you can hold a regular DualSense controller and can use it to a certain degree, but you kind of have a little irritation with certain button movements and stuff, this is the one that I would recommend. Now, if you cannot hold a DualSense controller, if you have trouble holding just a regular controller and using a regular controller for any reason, then please look at the adaptive option that Sony has. It's a fantastic controller. I did a lot of research on that one as well. I think that it has its place, right? But if you're able to use your hands enough to use a DualSense controller, but you have a little bit of a gripe or a little bit of fine motor skill issue or whatever, this one I think is your best bet, right? Because it just makes it so much easier to play certain games, right? I even have a profile for NBA 24. Yeah, 2K24. I have a profile for Skull and Bones. I have a profile for God of War. I have a profile for any first-person shooter. Right now I'm playing X Defiant. I have a profile for this game that we're seeing on the screen. And I have a couple others that are programmed that I'm hiding away, waiting for the opportunity to use them, just to see how it works, right? There is going to be a lot of testing on your part if you buy this controller to kind of tweak it, find what works best for you. But I'm telling you right now, it's worth it. This is my daily driver now. Now, let's get to the gripes about the controller. I've been singing the praises for 19 minutes. There are a few gripes, okay? The number one gripe that I have, and I mean seriously, PlayStation, shame on you. The battery life on this thing. I mean, you charge it up I have a charge dock. I charge it up and I ready to go, right? But the battery life on this thing is shorter by at least a couple hours, I think, than a DualSense Edge, or not a DualSense Edge, but a regular DualSense controller. It's shorter than that. I mean, it like eats battery, big time. You might get through one play session of, 4 or 5 hours. If you're a heavy gamer and you game a lot during your day off or whatever, you're gonna have to switch out a controller or charge it up at some point. Now, one of the pluses to that is that you have a very long braided cable that you can plug into your PlayStation, right? And go ahead and continue playing and not have to worry about charging it and switching out controllers. But I hate to play with corded controllers. I really, really do. So I have a regular DualSense, so when it runs out, I just switch out controllers. But you do have that option. But it's still annoying that the battery life is just so poor on this controller. The other thing that I kind of sort of don't like, and I've had to kind of retrain myself, is the paddles, the regular paddles, right, do sit flush. And sometimes they sit so flush that if I'm sitting here just holding the controller, sometimes I accidentally hit a button or a paddle that I don't want to, just because I move my hands, and it's so sensitive it just goes click, and you do that, right? I have inadvertently, done something incorrectly during a fight in God of War a time or two, or accidentally used as power up or something that I didn't want to use, or passed the ball to the wrong teammate or something that I didn't want to use because it sits so flush and it's so easy to press. Now, I'm not complaining about the fact that it's easy to press. That's fantastic, especially if you have trouble with your fingers, but it's just so flush. So you might want to look at maybe the half domes, see if that works for you. But you're still going to run into the same issue of them being very easy to press. And I can honestly tell you that the domes, the half domes, while for some people they may work fantastic, for me with people with fine motor skill problems and had to have therapy for learning how to type, tie my shoes, things like that as a child, my fingers and half domes hate each other, okay, because it takes a little bit more dexterity to push those, and so I've kept the paddles. So if I know that I'm not going to really need the paddles, I turn on my default, my default setting profile so that I'm not touching the paddles. I do want to talk about something else too. To save battery life, you can, turn off the vibration completely. You can turn off the adaptive triggers completely. That does save battery life, but if you are one of those people that have difficulty gripping a controller or pulling on something because your fingers don't have the motion or the strength that they should, you can negate some of that issue just by turning off the adaptive triggers and sometimes the vibration as well, which I have done on some games, just because it does create some issues, right? So if that's a thing for you, consider turning it off. Turning them both off will save some battery life. It will also help you with maybe not pulling triggers so hard or losing your grip or whatever. It might help you a little bit. But the other thing you might want to do is turn the light on the controller down to dim, right? That'll save some, but again, it's almost not noticeable as far as the light goes, saving battery life. But I do know it does help, but not by a lot. At least not that I've noticed, right? If you guys have played with it a little bit longer and you guys know, then you can put it in the comments. Let me know, because I haven't noticed anything, and I've been playing with it for a long time. So just let me know in the comment section below. But I hope you've enjoyed this review. I know I don't really have anything to show you. I did have some screenshots. I did try to actually do this live, put it up on the screen, but unfortunately the software that I use does not allow me to do that. So I could not put screenshots. I could put screenshots up here, but trying to talk about the different menus and the different schemes and stuff would have been difficult. There are other reviewers out there that have live screenshots of the different menu items, so you can take a look at those. But I honestly recommend it if you have a disability and you can use a controller. And I hope it's been helpful to you. If you did enjoy the video, please drop a like. I am on Twitter. @VDunchucks is my Twitter. Or X now. It's X now. So I am on X. I am on YouTube. And again, once a week, I'll be here. We are going to be reviewing Star Wars Outlaws for you guys. That's pre-ordered. It's on its way. It'll be here on the 25th when the game launches. And I'm thinking about doing a review on College Football 25. Just because I haven't reviewed a sports game on this channel since inception, I don't think. And I do play a lot of Madden, or did. I haven't bought a Madden in a number of years now, but that's frustration of it being a roster update every year, more so than anything else. But I will definitely be looking at that, and I might review that. So if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts on College Football 25, let me know in the comments. I'm kind of excited about it because everything that I hear about it makes me want to play it. So I'm kind of thinking about doing that. But we are definitely doing Outlaws, so stick around for that review. And we'll probably have one more episode of this. Matter of fact, you might actually see this particular scenario on the channel very, very soon as well. So hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again soon. Don't forget, love your families because you only get one. And hope you guys have a great day. Bye.